You got the sign.
This is fresh water, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Is it okay?
one after another, Durham.
Wow.
9 I got.
It always makes
Feel like
me
I'm on
nervous that
safari, I
Joanne
like
isn't
it.
drinking
Yeah,
company water, and, it's sort of like,
Oh, yeah.
she was here.
No, I-
Got my,
the air they
it's
get.
got my vitamins
Spotted
in it. I need the
leopard.
vitamins at night.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yes, and doing stuff. Then they just go
Either
massive.
that or giraffe.
Oh, he just came
Yeah,
out over the
it-
top. Why'd he come over the
She's
top?
smart.
It's
She
just
does
a-
a podcast.
We could put that on big
meeting.
screen and quit fooling.
All right, I
around.
think we're there,
learning
Bob.
curve.
Bob,
Yeah,
aren't we
screen
there?
bearing.
Bang the gavel and start the
Are we
meeting.
ready to
It's
go?
not,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not quite time.
Isn't it, looks like 20
Yeah, the-
20 seconds
Yeah, the
after.
official.
Oh, we're not going by the
Why did he
wall
come up
clock.
on top?
Now it's 7 o'clock.
Was he
Okay,
scared?
now you can bang the gavel.
I'm going to call regular meeting of the Board of Directors for Tuesday, February 13th, to order. Okay, we're in order now.
Made to order, I like it.
Okay. Please have the roll call.
Of course. Director Michelson?
Yes.
Vice President Coverdell?
Yes.
Director Reynolds?
That's me.
Director Glassberg?
Here.
President Feldman?
Here,
Thank you.
pledge of allegiance. Folks. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. See, now why does he land on the top? Watch him.
Okay,
Very dumb.
time for public comment. We have any
Yeah, that's all.
Public
that
comment?
Did nothing matter.
hearing none? We'll go to the consent calendar. Are there any items on the calendar that any of the directors want to have taken off and put on the side, or comments?
I'd like to move we approve the consent calendar as presented.
Yeah, and I'll second that, as I was the one who reviewed claims.
Okay,
Yes, Director Michelson?
Yes.
Vice President Coverdell?
Aye.
Director Reynolds?
Aye.
Director Glassberg?
Aye.
President Feldman?
yes.
This is for silver or gold.
Okay, any meetings attended or director comments? Any,
I've been doing snow research. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's not just horrible here. I did some research up in Idaho, just as bad in Idaho as it was here.
Colorado River's forecast to flow 47%.
I thought the snow,
heard
the
LA.
storms went that way.
Well,
heard
it's-
LA.
I
In
did too,
Arizona.
but the snowfall
Phoenix.
No.
in the Sierra and the snowfall in the, what are those mountains? Sawtooth, it's almost identical, yeah. 91 inches this
That's too
season.
bad.
Yeah,
Did
it's-
you do any research on the East Coast?
I tried
Too
to, but I
much.
couldn't catch a quick flight. And I was afraid to
Reynolds
fly with
Air is-
the only pilot that I knew that flew a private
Reynolds Air
plane.
is
Because they're
going.
doing okay.
Yeah, oh, they're racking up.
They're
Yeah,
racking up snow.
I think they're gonna have to build those meltdown machines like they had before.
Okay, any other comments, meetings, et cetera? Nothing.
He won, didn't he?
We'll move to
We'll see.
general business. Item A, District Transparency Certificate of Excellence awarded through the Special District Leadership Foundation. Dave, you want to tell us?
Okay,
about
we had expected to have a representative of CSDA here tonight, but she called late this afternoon and said she was sick and couldn't come, so
flu?
put up with me. We just wanted to recognize ourselves for achieving the Special District, the Special District Association's Transparency Certificate of Excellence certification. This effort grew out of the 2017 San Mateo Grand Jury Report, looked at transparency among the special districts. Title of that was Partly Cloudy with a Chance of Information. And it made a number of recommendations to which we responded, and the board approved the response. And in December, one of the things we committed to do was to obtain the Transparency
Gold.
Certificate of Excellence. It's a pretty significant effort, which Joanne doggedly pursued for a long time. It was a thick application, it was a lot of work, and I really want to recognize Joanne for putting in that effort for us. And so we're recognized now, and so we're certifiably transparent.
Was anyone else on this coast recognized?
We don't pay attention to anybody else.
I would be shocked if
Quick
anyone else.
correct
I-
answer.
It's more rhetorical.
Yeah, I think North Coast,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
North
on our coast, I mean,
but I don't
I
know
would
that
have
that
to
is or
look-
isn't the case.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up.
What, other than having to complete all the paperwork that's involved, what changes, if any, had to be made to qualify for it?
Oh, well, a lot of documentation had to be posted on our website. That
Mhm.
was normally not there. People would
Mhm.
come in and ask for it, and we could give it to them, but we have all those materials up on the website now.
Okay.
And they're consistently replaced with updated versions as things change. So it's a lot of work to keep that website maintained.
I was going to say, who gets the job of maintaining our website?
Well, we all kind of work together to make sure it gets updated all the time.
I'd like to compliment you for the team accolades.
Absolutely.
Great job, but thanks for Harold.
Well, we'd always felt that we made every effort to be transparent. That's been our credo and motto for many years now, and it's good to know that we are officially perceived as such by this board, and very happy that we took the effort, made the effort to do it. I know it wasn't easy, and there was some question, just getting that momentum up, but we did do it, and we did get the excellent, I guess they'll mail it to us now? It's in the mail? Oh, do we got it?
We have it, yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's attached
Oh,
to
that's
the
right, the
staff
letter was
report.
That's the
attached.
letter. I think there's
Oh,
a
it's a letter, right?
certificate as
Oh.
well.
Do we post that on our website?
Sure.
Sure.
Very good,
We
great.
update it every year
Well,
as
there's
we
some kind
renew
of
the
That's
transfer.
good
Isn't there
news.
some kind of a logo or seal or something that
Yes, I have that.
designates it?
Better.
And we have window
Seal.
stickers.
Windows.
Is that something, is that something that
That's
can be
nice.
But
reproduced?
is that only,
How
does that
trans-
only,
how
So every year
transparent
they'll
are
give you a
they?
new one, so it's like, is the guy rated 20?
does that only work on a Windows computer, or do we get an Apple one if people have an
It says
Apple?
window clean stickers, you know,
Yeah.
you're
Window,
right.
yes.
That's cute.
Window stickers.
Hey, super.
She wanted a photo op
Don't
with
put
the
it in the
board,
field
so-
of vision for the driver.
Yeah, she wanted a photo op
I
with
shaved
the
just
board
this week.
tonight, so
But
that,
she, well,
What
good,
waste?
because.
Do you want to send her a picture of us?
We can do it next
Here's
month.
the Motley
All right.
Crew.
Have her come next time.
We'll remember.
Tell her we'll give her a belated picture,
We could Photoshop her
as
in.
long as she's over the flu.
We could hold
Otherwise, we
we
get
could
to
hold
do
our
too much
window
for
sticker.
As long as she's over the flu. Okay,
Let's move on.
next item on the agenda is, going to be contract with Del Porto Electric for Denniston Pump Station work.
And I'll let James talk about that one.
Thank you. It was discovered when we fired up the pumps for the finished water pump station that we were overloading our PG&E transformer. It was the existing one. Rated about 115% of the rated capacity. PG&E has requested that we upgrade it to a higher capacity transformer to handle the loads. This will resolve some of the electrical issues. It includes transformer pad, protector ballards, underground conduit, wires grounding, and a 400 amp 4-wire main and service enclosure. We got 3 bids. Del Porto was the lowest bid. They're all pretty tight, so that shows that it was competitive. And this will resolve the issues of the transformer being undersized. And we will be putting this in before we get the transformer, while the pump station can still be running, so it'll be next to it. So it'll be minimal interruption of service while we get ready for the new transformer.
I'm sorry.
Is that the reason why the pump was misbehaving?
No,
No. You sure?
positive.
All right. That pulsing was an electrical issue?
No.
Oh, okay, good. Thanks.
And didn't we do the notice of completion on that project?
We have.
So what's the status of that? Yeah, I think it was in the consent calendar
was.
tonight. And I meant to ask the question and forgot. So what's the status of that pump?
I was gonna talk about that in my operations report.
Fair enough.
If that's okay.
You bet.
The plan is to install this whole in parallel with the existing system and then cut over at some point when they put a new transformer?
Yes.
How long does the transformer take to put in by PG&E?
How long does it take for the PG&E
To put in the transformer, yeah, and
It can be done in probably a half day, I would imagine.
okay. Does the plant has to be shut down when they do the cutover?
Yes.
But only a short.
Yeah, hopefully
window.
just for a day.
Okay.
It takes about a year to get through PG&E's process of applying for the transformer,
Okay.
submitting, getting the design, signing their contract, all that kind of stuff. We started a
about a
long
year
time
ago.
ago.
You started a long time ago,
Yeah.
so you're.
So
Have
it's-
they ordered the transformer? Or do they have them in stock?
I think they have these.
Because I've had that situation where they ordered the transformer and it's months.
Sure.
There will be some lead time on the parts for this project.
Yeah.
Okay,
Probably
well,
8 weeks. 8
so,
weeks.
Oh, I'll
I'd
make
like to
a,
move we approve the contracts as presented
I'll second it.
for Del Porto, Andrini Brothers, and Calcon.
No, you're just
No.
supposed
Oh,
to pick the
just
low
Del
one?
bid.
Porto.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Andrini bid it also?
Yeah, he was
Oh, I
high
get it,
bid.
okay.
No, Del
For
Porto
Del
had the
Porto
low bid.
Electric.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I second it.
Treasurer Michelson?
Yes.
Vice President Coverdale?
Aye.
Director
Yes.
Reynolds? Director Glassberg?
Aye.
President Feldman?
hi. Next thing is item C, the fiscal year 2018-19 budget process timeline. Mary?
Well, we first introduced a timeline last month. So since last month, we had a special meeting with our rate consultants. We had a facilities meeting and a finance committee meeting to talk about to go through our draft budgets and our operating budget and CIP, which we'll discuss in a moment. The timeline is basically the same as what was presented, except we did add one finance committee meeting in April. Our goal is still to have our budgets and our rates approved at the June board meeting. So, any questions or?
Nope.
Okay.
You had it in April or March?
It's April,
Oh, so I see a March 19th meeting.
I'm sorry, it's March 19th.
Yes, yeah, okay, I just thought there was
Yeah, not
another one I
April, yeah.
missed.
Oh, well, we'll also have
Yeah.
a meeting in April, but we're going to have a March 19th meeting to
Okay.
go over our, have a first introduction to the rate study results.
Any comments on the agenda? No? Okay. Next item is the draft fiscal year 2018-19 operating budget and draft fiscal year 18-19 to 2027-28 capital improvement program.
Okay.
See it?
Oh, I knew we weren't getting off that easy.
When all three screens come on, you know.
Yeah.
You know there's action coming down.
Funny, Chris, that was exactly my sentiments.
Okay, here we go.
Well, I think the good news is that most of you, except Chris, have probably seen some portion of what we have here.
We can send it to your email all over the world.
I didn't know from you, Chris. You don't get to see it.
But this is really the board's, the full board's first introduction to what we're proposing for both an operations budget and a draft CIP. So we'll first look at the operations budget and at, a kind of top level view. I compared, the first column is what we're saying for a draft, then we're comparing it to last year's budget and the dollar change. So what we're, in terms of revenue, we have upped the water sales. In our current budget, we budgeted 560 million gallons, and we have bumped that up to 580. We are, right now, this year, running in the 580 range. The big issue is if we have the risk factor is a drought. But, at this point, we've bumped up the water sales. So without any rate increases, if we assume these water sales, that's 339,000 in additional sales. And we've also bumped up non-operating revenue. We've seen increases in our property tax, tax revenues, so we've bumped that up. In terms of our operating expenses, you'll see the difference is 40,000 and little change to debt service. So that's at the top level. So, first in looking at our operating expenses, is saying it's, 0.5% over our current budget levels. And that's, let's say, one of the key areas is that our water purchases from San Francisco, we're showing a 280,000 savings, even though we're upping our assumptions in terms of water sales. And this is really due to all of our, investments in our, local sources, so including Denniston and the wells. And this next slide, actually, I'm trying to pull out, this is my fourth round for a budget. And looking back at our budgets for the last 4 years, you can really see the impact of using our local sources. During these years, we did have some rate increases as well from San Francisco, but back in 15, 16, we were planning nearly 2.9 million in purchased water, and in this year we're 1.8 million. So it's big change, and we can say that most of it's because of Denniston. In 2015-16, we budgeted 50 million gallons from Denniston, and now we're saying we're going to produce over 200 million gallons. So again, this is we have to hope for rain too, with 'cause there is a risk level there, but this is really good news about seeing the return on our investment in, with the at Denniston. Both, years ago with the treatment facility, and this, past year we had our $2.6 million expansion of, we had Bridgeport and the booster pump station improvements. So very, I think good news for us. So moving on to other cost areas in terms of electricity, we do have some electricity offsets, at Denniston, because we have this new booster station, so we're using a little bit more, more electricity, but we are getting, so much savings, on our San Francisco water. So for electricity, we're figuring about 63,000 increase in this budget. I will, just make a comment on, Crystal Springs. We've, left the same as this year. We've really recognized a lot of the savings in our electricity costs at Crystal Springs already, even in our past, couple years, as we've really, our crew has really tried to shift, and making sure that we're not, we're running that as little as possible if we can run our, use our local sources. So the other, in terms of operations and maintenance, we did, I shifted some of, we had Denniston dredging as a capital item, as we do it every year, or we should do it every year. So we moved that into the expense budget out of CIP. We do have some increased cost at Denniston as well in terms of chemicals and operations and, and maintenance costs at Denniston. We do have increased lab costs. Our lab, we're budgeting for our, lead sampling in the schools, and there's other testing as well that we are now required to do. So our lab costs are going up. So in this area, we have a $72,000 increase. So in terms of our salaries and benefits, we have incorporated a COLA increase. We shouldn't know by the end of this month what that COLA is. It's probably somewhere in the 3% range. So we will adjust that next month. We have had a big pop in our contributions to CalPERS for our unfunded pension liability, so that brings costs up $51,000. As you know from a couple meetings ago, we replaced a temporary operator position in the budget with a full-time position, which had a differential in costs. We did go ahead and eliminate the open water resource coordinator role that we've had open for the last few years. We're considering an increase with Anthem and Kaiser. If we get more information, we'll plug those numbers in. We're leaving the general manager as is at 100% time. It is, we budgeted in other years. So the net cost impact is increasing our salaries and benefits $134,000, which is 3.7% higher than last year. So.
Pension liability, historically, what's that run, and does that lag market performance?
So CalPERS, they lowered their discount rate in the last year. And so looking at so that's where we're looking at this increase in the unfunded pension liability. We'll see how they performed with the market in the last.
Yeah, because the market has clearly overshot their targets, so.
They tend to, CalPERS tends to lag.
Yeah, that's really my bigger question.
So we'll see.
We won't see that this year.
We won't
maybe
see that.
next
We may
year.
not see it next year, maybe in their
Okay.
projections for the following year.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, thank you.
Why rush a good thing?
Yeah.
Mary, we moved our election to follow the other group of elections. Is that gonna save us any money? I was just noticing the $25K for election expenses.
Well, we have November 18 for an election. 3 of our board members are at.
No, I know
Yeah.
that, but we were doing our election an off year,
Yeah.
and then we switched it, and I thought I remembered that one of the benefits was that our cost of
Right.
participating in the election was reduced.
Just delayed it a year.
Yeah, but
No, it wasn't just that it was delayed, it was that, because
Because
the
now we're in
cost.
sync with
Right.
midterms.
Yes,
We were-
and
we were
so
out- we were out
the
of
cost
sync.
of running the election is borne by the districts that are participating, and by joining a larger pool of districts, then our costs go down. Was I wrong on that, or?
I think that's right. I think,
Yeah, I think.
and as
Reduce the cost.
as more and more special districts went to the even year elections, the number of agencies paying the costs of the odd year elections went down and the costs would go up. So I think versus staying with odd years, we're certainly saving money, and the more, it is just the cost of the fixed costs, some of the overhead costs are divided up among all the agencies.
Right, exactly.
So we'll see if we can.
So this
get any
25 is
estimates
for this
from-
year's election costs for,
Correct.
but it was 25 in the past too, I think,
Right,
is what he's
yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Should it be a little less
Years
than that, that's
ago,
all.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe not, I mean, it just,
Probably wise to put it in.
there were
and
other
we'll find
reasons
out.
to move.
This
Yeah,
is
no,
next year.
but I do remember
Yeah,
that
you're
being
right.
one of the.
Get
I think
better,
it's-
better voter turnout and all that kind of stuff.
I
That
don't
was
think
all
it's
of it.
material to the overall
It's not
budget
material.
picture.
I appreciate the fact that you're paying attention to the
Yeah.
budget. Are you up for election in 18?
I don't believe I am.
Who's the other one? Is it?
I am, and
You and me.
oh, me and you, I thought it was.
Is it me?
That's our
That
president.
was
Okay, two,
a year
sorry.
ago, something.
Me and
You
you.
guys better start campaigning.
Just two?
Huh?
Or is it the three of you?
No,
It's just
two.
two.
You have to be on my best behavior
You
for
three are all
18.
20.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Good
they
thing we
watch
had you
it.
moved over here. Remember to turn and look that direction.
In your report, your memo, it talked about a total FY 2019 operating expense or 0.5 higher
Right.
than FY 2018. But the ones I add up here are more than 40. How did you get to the 40? Operating expenses
Well, we have the.
plus 63, plus 72, and plus 134.
Yeah,
And
we got a
minus
subtract.
280.
Oh, minus the
Savings.
water savings. Oh,
Right.
You didn't put it, okay. I see.
Yeah, that's.
I got to add it up on this.
I'd have made a really big slide of that one.
Okay, that's, I see, that was in the front. Gotcha. There it is. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's, well, I spoke about water first.
The pictures are too interesting on that particular sheet.
You have it in the comparison, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's up on the screen.
I got it, sorry. All righty, keep going.
So finally, with our, with our G&A back, we did reduce our engineering because we had raised engineering last year, but most of our engineering costs really get charged off to capital projects, so. And that's the reduction of 40K then offsets some of our other expenses. We will have some increases in our billing expenses as we go to monthly billing. And we also had some, catch up on our annual services related to our AMI. So the other piece is that the state Water Resources Control Board has increased their fees to us significantly over the last
How
couple of
surprising.
years. Yeah, so. Anyway, so.
Seems like pay more.
But all in all, with adding these up, as, we noted that, our,
Which one?
with the offsets, it gets to.
Mary, I have a question. When we go to monthly billing, we'll have revenue coming in monthly as opposed to every other month, right? If we pay our debt service on that monthly, does that reduce our interest that we're, because we're paying more frequently? Is that an option? Or we always been paying our
You pay
debt
half as
service
much.
monthly?
No, we pay our
Twice a
debt
year.
service twice a year.
Twice a
per
year.
Okay.
For the schedules.
And I know nothing about this, but in a home mortgage loan, if you pay it more frequently, then you're reducing the interest and you save money. Is there any value, since we have money coming in 12 times a year instead of 6 times a year, could we be paying down our interest and save money?
I need to check the terms of our loans. if that's
Typically,
it.
you're locked in with the official statement. You're locking into a certain amount twice a year, and the payments are twice a year. I don't know that
Yeah,
you
they're
would even
twice
have
a
that
year,
option.
in August and February. And
Unless
some
you
of the
structure it.
issues are also in terms of, since we fund, our capital right now, on a pay-as-you-go basis, we're trying to,
It wouldn't change, you're still making the money once a month, but it's the same amount for the year.
Yeah.
It's like making the, doesn't change anything.
Yeah, and some of the, our payments are pretty
Unless
front-end
you
loaded.
pay it down quicker,
Yeah.
Right.
Our-
that's when it changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, one big check.
Yeah. Our payments are pretty front-end loaded, we have payments coming in, July, August timeframe, which really takes a chunk of our money, but it is something we could check with the terms of our
I'll take a look,
loans,
yeah.
so.
So this, the next one, I'm ahead on my slides. I'm betting that's Joe Gastino.
Yes.
It is Joe, isn't it?
Which,
This is what
Yeah.
drove Joe to retirement, was the Alps
so.
tank.
So, the one issue debt service, we don't have any changes in our payments. So, we do want to highlight that the budget risks associated with what we have presented. If we have if drought reductions are mandated and, we, have a reduction in sales, we will, we will see that reduction of, could be up to 500,000 if, last year we were around 550 million gallons. We were up in the, in the 580s. Going back down to 550 is a very realistic place we could be if we're looking at a drought. And that could.
If there's a drought, doesn't it usually take the state a year before they decide there's a drought and want to have reduced flows?
These are, the state board is really on top of it, so in the past, it's taken a long time, but I think now they may act more quickly.
They're already talking about
They've actually got a-
putting out the 7 rules of drought conservation again sooner, like no watering the driveway, all that kind of stuff there. There was an article in one of the newsletters about, they're already, the State Water Resources Control Board is already looking into issuing those things again right away. So it's not going to be years before they start squeezing again.
Yeah.
They have the reserves, I know, for a number of years, but they're not going to wait as long this time, I don't think.
Yeah. Now, just jumping ahead, I included my AGM report. I have the letter from Steve Ritchie talking about San Francisco, and at this point in time, San Francisco
No change.
says no change.
Right.
But that could change
That
in
could change.
April. I mean, it's very easy,
No change.
it could change. So, and then our other issue is, if we are dry, we could have issues with our local sources.
Right.
So, and would have to turn to San Francisco. So any questions on the operations budget before we move on? So I do need to get James's picture in front of the
Not until it's painted.
They look good when they're painted.
Yeah, they're really nice. Makes you want to tag it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, as high-level overview, our 10-year plan is 32.7 million. Our 5-year right now shows 18.1 million, which is an average about 3.6 million per year. I think we've talked about having a 5-year focus with our, with our CIP, because we really, we know more about the 5 years. Timing can change, so, we really like to look at the average, and even when we're doing a rate, with our rate studies, we look at the average. But we had an increase of 2.4 million over the prior year, for the same 5-year period. And that really includes adjustments for construction cost increases and the acceleration of tank refurbishments. We had the pleasure of taking our facilities committee out to see some of the tanks. And our tanks are, are older and are in need of refurbishment. So we
had a facilities committee meeting, CIP meeting, and the increase in funding requirement in the CIP for next year, 18-19, caught our attention, which was like 2.6 mil, more than previously in that same year. And so we try to get close to the tank issue, and they were we were able to get a matrix of tanks from Jim and Dave, and when they were coated and how big they were and what year they were built, and then we said, Glenn said, maybe we can take a look, because we're not tank experts at all. So we went up and checked valves in Granada 1, right? And also HMB 1, 2, and 3, and Miramontes. So we were in the vicinity, and we were just trying to get a flavor for what tanks are and how they work, and which ones were seismically dealt with and which weren't. And what we came away with was there are a few things that we should be doing more than just necessarily recoding them. We should be doing seismic research on a number of them just to make sure we're covered in case of the big happening, because some of them aren't at all set up for that stuff. Only one or two that we saw were set up. And Al's, of course, is interesting and not in great shape, and Granada 1 looks to be ready for some effort. So we felt more comfortable after going around, looking at the rings on the bottom and how they fasten them down, and thought perhaps it'd be wise to consider that kind of infrastructure rework sooner rather than later, actually. And so those were some of the thoughts. Also, we asked to have the need for some of the tanks looked at, whether there should be a different configuration to some degree, because some of them didn't seem to be as important now as they were then, and so that will be something over time that we'll probably hear more about. A couple of them look to be missized for what they were used for now, and like that. But those were some of the thoughts we had. And other than that, I think that was the biggest change in the CIP that we were concerned about.
The thing that I think that the board should be cognizant of is that some of the tanks that need service have been neglected. They absolutely need the service. The service is expensive, but Dave quite sagely pointed out that if we were to paint these without addressing current seismic standards, we get an earthquake and we lose the tank. And it is true that you can truly see that these tanks were not seismically designed to current standards. They were built in the 50s and they're built to 50s standards. So I think it was Bob and my agreeance that getting them seismically evaluated was really key before we pay to repair them, so that we can make sure that it's a.
Was there any movement in Loma Prieta?
Don't know.
I mean, employees probably, I was here, most of us.
The tanks are vulnerable to two things. One is they move on their base.
Sure.
And the new tank is bolted down, the old tanks are not. And then the second is the water sloshes in the
Yeah,
tank.
sure, it depends on how much water is in the
Yeah.
tank, yeah,
And
sure, that's a big
it
factor,
can
too.
just rip the tank and pop it open. And so both of those will be looked at in the seismic evaluation. And the seismic evaluation is quite cost effective. Dave was saying about $40,000.
did.
Just for
Had
the
one for
evaluation,
Al's.
but then
Correct.
what are retrofits? Rob?
Well, it depends on whether, how well the tank was designed, how its foundation is, and so we don't know that. But I for one, really felt that that was a very prudent thing to do, was to find out their seismic vulnerability prior to our welding in repairs and painting them, and then find out that we had a brand-new looking 1950 tank that was, vulnerable to a 2020 earthquake.
Is the 40,000 for D all of the above?
It's for the evaluation to see what'll
All
happen
of
in
the
the earthquake.
tanks.
No, it's
No, that's
per
the
tank.
tank.
Alves.
Al's was
Yeah.
40.
Yeah, so I'd kind of like to see a more global presentation, because we're going to look at all the tanks, right? We're not going to just look at one.
We're going to
So-
look at the ones that will be rehabbing.
Yeah, but I think it'd be best in our money to look at all of them. Maybe we get a group discount because we have 7 or however many we have, but I'd like to look at trying to economize that review, not get into sort of a one tank at a time deal.
It really is a one tank at a time deal, because the tanks are of different construction eras, they're of different designs, different sizes.
Yeah, but
So
the
it's a
reviewer is going to be,
detailed-
the reviewer is going to be a similar person trained in
Yeah.
looking at seismic conditions of tanks, right?
Ken, one thing I'd worry about is that due to workload and budget constraints, we can't fix all the tanks at once. And one of the things that I think that does make a lot of sense is that the seismic rules and the modeling change fairly frequently. And so there is almost an advantage to looking at the tank we're fixing now getting that to today's current standards, but 5 years from now, when we do another tank, that one may actually end up being an even, a more modern result when they do the seismic evaluation then, so.
But the evaluation would be, are we looking at a problem ready to happen? And if we're looking at a problem ready to happen in one tank, we're looking at a problem ready to happen in all tanks. And the person who's gonna do the seismic review is gonna travel one time or two times instead of, 7 individual times, or it just seems like there's an economy of scale there that might be to our advantage. Doesn't mean we're gonna embark on the repairs, but it may let us know what our risk management, potential is, right? Gee, tank 1, 3, and 5 are 20% risks, and, tank 9, 3, and, whatever are a different risk, but I think one group of people, isn't it gonna be Par gonna be the guy that does that?
We've hired a specialty.
No, they have a specialty.
Contractor.
So that's what
Will work for us?
I'm concerned about, though, onesie, twosie running the bill up. That's what I'm worried about. Be really
You
honest.
plan to do one on Alves
We'll
and
talk to
also
him. We can
on
talk to him about that.
HMB3, right, Half Moon Bay tank, I'm sorry, in El Granado.
We've already issued the contract for the Alves evaluation.
And you're
The
gonna
next
have one
one
coming
will
in
be
for,
And that's
El
Granado
Granado
Tank
one.
1, because those are both scheduled for
Those are 40,000?
projects.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we haven't gotten a price for El Granado
El
Tank
Granado,
1
yeah.
yet.
But Alves?
It'll be less.
Alves is 40.
Yeah, it'll be less. Alves is a big tank. Alves
Yeah,
is,
it's huge.
biggest,
yeah.
huge.
How
That's-
big is it?
2 million.
2 million.
Yeah, so it's
Biggest
4
one.
times the size of, maybe more than 4 times the size.
Which one was
of,
bolted down?
El Granado 1.
Miramontes?
Miramontes is
The
the
little,
newest
the
tank.
.4.
Right,
the
so
one
it's bolted
bolted
to a
down,
ring
really
wall,
looks
yeah, a ring foundation.
Stable, I mean, you could see the difference between the tank without bolts and the tank that's firmly taken care of. But no, again, we just want to understand, so we understand.
I'm fully, I agree. I think
Maybe you
it's-
can ask the guy
I
that's
think
doing it,
risk
is there a way to
management's
do
really smart.
a spin to get some flavor for
Just
what
want
that
to do it
means?
cheaply and efficiently.
And we'll ask the question.
But you're having a specialty guy doing this one.
Yes, it's a firm that specializes, a structural firm that does this.
Any other comments on?
Yeah, I appreciate you going out and looking. I think it's a great idea.
Oh, no, just that the numbers changed
Pay
and we
attention.
felt compelled to take a look and make sure we felt that there were valid and authorized reasons for doing this. And what I learned is, yeah, we should probably be keeping those in mind. We looked at the Alps tank, 2 million gallons, if it ever decided to do its thing as a tsunami.
Well,
effect
tsunami's
down
not gonna
on-
get that high.
On Moon Ridge.
If a tsunami reaches Alves tank, we're
No,
all-
he means.
Oh,
I-
tsunami
I
coming
meant
down.
it's
Yeah.
Oh, the
tank
other way
itself.
around, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I mean, well, but coming back to,
No, it's not gonna happen.
No,
I'm just-
we did survive Loma Prieta with,
Right,
and that was with 7-1.
that's true.
So it's not as, I just fear it's a little open-ended, there's a little bit of scare factor in here, and I think it could be very expensive.
Right.
Did you see the Hazen's tank? Has that been broken down yet?
No, we didn't go
So
there.
did you get to see it? You
No.
didn't go to that one?
No.
That's the most at-risk tank we have.
The
It's
which?
wood.
Yeah, well, it's not working. It has an X in it, so we didn't go
All
there. We didn't go to
I think
X's.
you should have looked at that tank. I'm concerned about it.
Other stuff on capital budget?
Well, I decided to pull out what we've actually spent over the last 10 years. And I thought this was interesting. It's 32.9 million over the last 10 years. And our proposed budget is 32.7 million in 2019 dollars. So is, I just, so we're on track to what we've been doing historically. So anyway, it was just a,
So the spending for the last 10 years
yeah.
was 32. Yeah. Interesting. And that's what we have projected for the next 10, at today's dollars, which,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So it's really less.
So,
Okay, that's
and then
good.
going on, just in, major categories of changes from year-over-year plans, in the, with equipment purchases and replacements, we're down 265,000, but we're postponing the Vector truck, but we're adding a valve truck. James is going to put in a program to exercise our valves, so.
Nice.
In the facilities and maintenance budget, the key change is that we're adding 500,000 for hydrant replacement, which is, we haven't been doing at a rate. We have over 900 hydrants in the,
About 700.
or 700 hydrants in the district, so.
Can I ask you a question about that? I'm not against hydrants. I'm not against us paying for hydrants. Is there any reason that the fire district might contribute to hydrant replacement since they're the utilizers of the hydrants?
Would come out of their big truck budget, and they wouldn't like that.
It would come out of their salaries,
But-
they wouldn't like that either.
Is there an agreement that we've signed, or is it just understood that that's a community service that we provide? I'm just curious. I'm not against it. I'm not, arguing one way or the
The
other.
big thing about it is by our owning them, it means we have control over them. So the use operation falls under our jurisdiction. And the minute utilities and cities try a joint deal where the fire, then they want to go out, fix them and play with them and screw around with them.
Hammer 'em.
Yep, and you start to see problems and it doesn't go well. So this is, for my money, works the best for all the water systems I see around the
Well,
world.
I just wondered if it could be a financial contribution with the
You
understanding
can
that.
get the money out of them, I'll back you
Well,
up.
I'm
I've
just-
never seen it
I'm
done.
I'm
It's
just,
part of our infrastructure, and it's up to us to maintain it.
okay.
I remember a vote early on where we either agreed or took over. Was it different, maybe 15, 20 years ago? Because I do remember a vote that we made early, like I said, early in my political career, where we took over the maintenance of fire hydrants, so it may have been different. And am I getting a nod from you?
Well, they used to pay a maintenance fee
Okay, yeah, see, yeah, you remember, okay, I'm not.
when I first started, and then it stopped, so.
Yeah, okay, so there was some historical precedence here, good, my memory still works.
Quite often, the fire department gets saddled with painting them, and those usually fizzle out.
Another do you remember the bicentennial hydrants?
I do, I remember.
We digress here.
Well, doesn't Limo's farm have one? Or is that just a horse?
So, if we move on to pipeline projects,
Back to
so
business.
we're actually showing a reduction in pipeline projects. One of our big projects was replacing the Casa Del Mar galvanized pipe, and we're going to be able, our game plan is to put in PRVs in that neighborhood, reduce the pressure, and then delay replacement of the pipe. So our team feels that we're really going to, we are going to be able to get the benefit of lower pressure in that neighborhood.
That's a lot of money.
So stretch the life of the current pipes?
Right.
So the pressure will go from what to what?
It's currently about 140, 150, and we'll drop it down closer to 80.
Ah,
So,
Oh, it's that high?
that's
very
huge.
high.
So it's not gonna cause showers to dribble by, yeah,
Dave
you
can
got,
tell me about the pressures in the lower zone when he's interviewing.
yeah, no, 80 is still,
So-
80 is still a plenty
Very
good.
savvy of him.
The other piece is that we pushed out the Highway 92 pipeline replacement, so it's not, we have the
We
major.
fixed the worst section.
We fixed the worst section.
Oh,
so
the
we're
one
gonna-
behind.
Yeah, the one that we just did.
And we bought
Line heaviest
easements for
section.
Is it appropriate in some way to publicly thank the Cosalinos? I mean, I think that what they've done for us is amazing. And I think that what they've saved the community in terms of traffic problems and all the realities along 92, I think it's pretty incredible. And I don't know if we ever thank people for things like that, but it's kind of like when Zabella House, gave us the ability to do the work to avoid that whole Main Street Bridge issue. I just wonder if we ever, or do we write a letter to the family and tell them? I mean, I think what they've done for us is kind of unbelievable, really. They didn't need to, might have benefited them, but it's pretty incredible. And if we had to replace that pipeline section on Highway 92 and shut down traffic, you guys have seen the traffic in the mornings now.
So
and
Ken,
the
what about a
afternoons.
letter? I mean, I think that could be fall
Sure.
under
Yeah, we
the
can do that.
bailiwick of the board
We've talked to
signing a
them,
letter and say
And they know
thank
the
you.
district really
Yeah,
appreciates it.
Yeah.
And, we came along at just the right time for them. We're really good to deal with. I think
You mean
both sides benefit. I
something from
think
us to them? Thank
Yeah.
I think
think
just
they like to
something
keep a
really
low
on a personal
profile.
level.
I'm in.
All right.
we'll do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm so thankful. I mean, we commute on that road every morning, and I can't imagine what it would be like.
and that's the worst section
Oh, man.
in
In
our
terms of the
view.
pipe.
So this
and-
delay is, it's a,
And traffic.
No,
It's
no.
not that it doesn't need to be replaced
Yeah.
yesterday, it's that we have a lot of projects
okay,
competing.
no, your call.
And so we've, delayed the ones we think we can.
Right,
It could still assert itself as our highest priority
Right.
problem at some
well, we
point.
took care of what we felt
We'll make
was-
that adjustment, right.
Okay,
So, and then we've talked about the tanks. We adjusted costs upwards and added EG1 and the Miramar tank chime. So that's where you're seeing additional 3.6 million. Dropping down to water treatment plants, we decided that we want to move up the Denniston Emergency Power project. We don't, if there was an issue where we couldn't get water from Crystal Springs, we'd really have to rely on Denniston, and we want to make sure there's emergency power at the plant. We don't have a generator there, so. So just in, summary, these are, in the 5-year window, the highest priority, largest cost projects are listed. Most of them are tank projects. The top one, we have water supply development, that's, for our continued work with Denniston and San Vicente, which really now has to fall in our window. So we're doing, and then we're having the, and then if you look at the, as I say, the tank refurbishments and
A lot of money in tanks.
huh?
Yeah, I know, we went from
That's right.
pipelines to tanks. This is,
Wait till we get some earthquake retrofit.
well, that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, me too.
In the last 10-year analysis you did, that 32.9, from 9 to 17, that included things, if I'm not mistaken, like Denniston?
Yes,
7+ mil for that.
yes.
El Granada, some El
The El
Granada
Granada
was in there.
pipeline, mhm.
So we had a couple of really heavy ones in there. I
Yeah, big
mean,
projects.
in today's dollars, the 32 would be, going forward, 10 years would be more than that, 40. So my question is, although I'm not usually the one to ask questions like how do we spend more money, do we need to consider that the 32 is light for the next 10 years, considering what we spent for the last 10 years? I'm just asking, do we
Well,
need to?
because, a good point, a lot of that was done in a very different economy than we're in today.
Right.
I mean, the cost of pipeline per foot is
Do we-
gone
do we-
from
Is
double.
32 really enough now? Now, I'm just asking because we've got a lot of pipe to replace still, and I'm just wondering, I mean, that's the reason we've been pushing so hard to get fiscally responsible, have extra assets and to keep our reserves high. I'm starting to think if it's the same as it was in the last 10 years, then it sounds like we're not doing the job. There should be thinking about the next 5 years as being more important than we think it is now, not, maybe the next 5 after that. So I would say, I'm surprised actually that the 32 in the last 10 years is reflected by the 32 in the next 10 years. I didn't think I'd say that.
Well, I think to some extent, we
I'm just asking.
gain on the problem a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done the most important
Right.
things. The El Granada pipeline was the highest priority for a long
Denison
time.
was pretty.
So we gain a little bit on the problems. I think also that a level of $3 to $4 million a year is about what we're able to push out
Right.
on, with our resources. I mean, we really have
With
to
the
step up
resources,
consultants and,
Right.
I mean, every
resources,
project
yeah.
requires a certain amount of time from the staff, and that's in many ways the limiting factor. And I think we also considered the impact of rates, and we'll talk more in the next meeting about the impact of the capital program on rates and how we plan to deal with what now appears to be we've moved up a level. For a long time, we've been looking at an average capital expenditure of about $3 million a year, and I think now we're seeing something that's more like 3.6, right. So, I mean, that represents, kind of a jump. The tail of our rate increase curve, which we've been looking forward to achieving for years now, where we get to that point where we're stable at relatively modest rate increases in the low single digits, made that assumption. Well, now we need to bump that up a little bit, so we're going to need some little increments of rate increase over what we had anticipated. So we, definitely think about that.
Okay, I'm just asking.
As we've shoved these capital projects around, I think we've lined out a program that we feel addresses the most urgent needs now and is about as aggressive as we can be with these projects, given sort of long lead times for permitting and design and just how long it really takes us a year to get to the big spending part of a project like Al's, for instance. We're going to be spending a bunch of money on engineering, but that's small compared to the actual construction cost. So Al's, we've got the actual construction of Al's, for instance, we've got out in 1920. Is that right? We have Al's construction in 1920, and we're doing design and engineering in 1819. So could it?
We want to start at the tail
Right.
end, so we
Right.
figured there was some money in this year that we would be spending.
So could it be higher? I think we went through an iteration of our CIP planning that pushed the total number for 10 years up to about almost 40 million.
Mhm.
And then just in thinking about those out years and some of these pipeline replacement projects, which really, they can be delayed. Casa del Mar, Miramar pipeline replacement, we were able to, I think we pushed some of those things. Actually, we took out some major placeholders that were in the out years, and they're now actual projects. So the numbers went down. So,
Well, it's
but that's an excellent question.
I'm
Are
just,
we?
I'm not saying,
That's really the big question. Are we
do it. I'm just
replacing this
saying,
infrastructure
Is there any,
fast enough?
philosophically,
Sure.
does that say anything to us? I mean, we changed the priority in a way. I mean, it seems to me, in the next 5 years, from maybe the pipelines to the tanks in a way. That's what it looks like, just looking at the numbers that we're seeing.
Right.
Right?
And as we toured the tanks, it's clear that the Half Moon Bay tanks 2 and 3, they were built in, 1955, 1960? I don't have the matrix here.
Mhm.
But those tanks have never been recoded, and they're 55 and whatever that is.
63.
60, yeah, 60
Right,
years old.
63.
Yeah. So
Well, okay.
clearly those,
Interesting.
could we have scheduled those for next year? No, I don't think we can handle more than one.
Oh, it's a resource.
One or two of those big
I
tank
agree.
rehab projects a year, so,
So
I think
you're
we're-
laying the resource issue in as a key factor too. You can only do so much well,
right.
rather than doing a lot poorly. I mean,
And I think for a district of our size, to be able to sustain a capital
Right.
projects of almost 3.5 million, 3.2 million a year, over that 10-year period, and if we can pick that up, I think that's pretty good. I mean, I don't think you'll see too many others around us that are, of our size, that are spending capital that aggressively.
Well, Mary, how you doing? Is that
Yeah.
all set?
All
I
set.
had a question on the budget timeline schedule. Where is the Gower, is it on here, the meeting we're gonna have to look at the approaches to budget? in the
That
future?
will-
Which one is that? I can't find it.
That will be on the April 16th special meeting, but we will also talk about that.
It's in that
at
meeting.
our- Yes, we can also introduce it in our April 10th board meeting as well. That's what, we wanted to have a finance committee meeting in March.
Right.
In anticipation of being able to introduce, whatever comes out of the rate study at the next board meeting, and then we'd have a special board meeting to discuss the rate study as well.
Okay.
At the April 16th meeting, we'll have the final rate study from Raftellus ready for public release, and that's, the April 16th meeting is the meeting at which we'll consider the the rate increase for the purpose of the 218 notice.
Yeah, they were gonna have one workshop for us, I thought.
Right.
And that's the.
April 16th,
That's the
April
16th.
16th.
right.
Okay, just, all right.
And we'll have the draft report in advance of that.
So we'll be able to see what proposals.
Yes.
Options they're providing. Okay, no, again, that was important to get set up to understand how we're gonna look at the budget over the following years because of the kinds of numbers we're seeing here. Okay, thanks. Next on the agenda is the Assistant General Manager report.
Okay, so this is quick. We're making progress with our AMI. We're in El Granada this month, in case you see the trucks around in El Granada. Also, we're making progress on a lot of the commercial accounts all over the district. So right now, we're, as of today, PMI had done 4,316 meters of their, around 5,400 commitment for them. So we're getting there. So,
4,300 out of 54?
80% is pretty good, huh?
yeah, so they're making
Oh,
progress.
we have more minutes?
Well, we do have
We have
7,500.
7,200, yeah.
But we're,
7,500.
we've already done about 1,000.
Okay.
And then the rest of them are largely fire services that we're going to do the work. And it's really, we're replacing the head versus the whole meter on those,
So they're doing 5,400 total.
Right.
They've done 43,
Right,
and we've done 1,000 on our own.
right.
So we're really 5,300 done, 50 out of 72. And they've got another 1,000 to do. Okay. So we'll have 6,300 and it'll be 1,000
Left. yeah.
left. Okay, I'm just
Yeah, it's
trying to-
largely fire services, and then we also have a few of our large services as well that that we decided to do, not.
Will be finished in March, you think?
Yeah,
That's-
well,
that's pretty good. That's close to schedule.
Ours, and the work that we're doing may, go on a few months.
Yeah.
But it's, all of the
Great,
residential.
sounds
will be
like
done.
we're making good progress.
Yeah, and so.
Have we seen any,
Leaks?
no, not leaks, have we gotten any feedback of any sort about this, that,
Generally, it's been positive, I think.
I'm just asking.
We actually even received something, an email in our box from a customer saying, how professional PMI seemed to be, and they, had a great experience, so. We've had a few, complaints, but I
No, I'm
think,
just-
it's, given the size of the project and, so different personnel working on the project from PMI, I think it's reasonably,
We have also initiated an effort using the data to find problems and call people about them. So we've saved people from some very large water bills. We have Vicky in our office is very good at calling people and saying, well, our data shows we think you may have a leak, and they say, oh, no, we don't think so, and then they'll call back and say, well, yes, somebody turned on our irrigation and it was leaking. We found leaks as high as 100 gallons an hour.
Wow.
That we were able to call people about and have them stop. So, that's kind of the promise of the new system. Unfortunately, it's, that's revenue.
Bites into
but-
our
yeah.
revenue.
Yeah,
Calling to lose
Yeah.
revenue.
Yeah, but it really, it would be great to have testimonials from those customers,
Right.
but they have to appreciate it. I mean, we really have saved them
that's,
from some very
that's
big
blood
bills.
money, that's not
Right.
revenue. So in a sense, so far, we have earned our certificate of excellence in transparency. Is that correct, in terms of the way we're doing this job?
You mean the meters?
Yeah, the meter job, we're doing it very transparently.
Sure.
No, I'm just laughing.
I think our staff, with the help of Kathleen,
We deserved our certificate.
have done a very good job of kind of letting people know that what's going to
That's
happen.
what I'm saying. At such time as we close this, I mean,
When
in
we have
March,
3 or 4 complaints and we've done 4,000 meters, I think that's
at
pretty
such
good.
time as this is closed, maybe in March, in terms of their efforts and ours to get the key residential, we probably could maybe get something out, communication to somehow to the public that we've actually been able to do this now and what the benefits will be for them, I don't know.
Right.
Sort of like a communicate, I'm just asking.
Well,
Think about it.
Well, our next step is really to, look at Water Smart, and we're in the process
Okay.
of getting that implemented, and so later, we will be able to do, have a rollout.
Public relations.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right,
Okay.
other items?
No, I mentioned the memo from Steve Ritchie already, so I think we're done with my report.
You're optimistic. All righty, next on the agenda is Superintendent of Operations report. Jim?
Evening, board members. Some monthly highlights. On the altitude valves at Alves and EG1, we put delays on the pilots so that we can get a little bit more drop in the tank and freshen up the water to improve our water quality there. So we're tuning those in. We've done load bank testing on all our emergency generators. We'll be doing this annually. The big benefit of this is when the generators are under load, they tend to tell you what's wrong with them in terms of oil pressure, and also the technician is observing how they're operating and looking at other needed maintenance that we've perhaps missed in the previous years. Final comments have been submitted to PECPOR Engineering on our specs and standards. Staff is preparing for the first round of the EPA required UCMR4, which is the Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule. 1996, the Safe Drinking Water Act required that the EPA look at unregulated contaminants to see how prevalent they are in what areas and if they need to create new regulations. I don't foresee any new regulations coming out in the next 3 years, but it's a mandatory set of sampling that we have to do of our source waters and our finished water. They're looking at different aspects of THMs and such. So we budgeted a little more for next year to handle some of the sampling because it goes throughout the year. We did a little open house for the Seacrest School at Nunes Treatment Plant. First graders, no one got hurt. They really liked it, and they even put together pictures and sent some appreciation. So I was just going to pass it around. It's really cool. Some of the kids drew profiles of the filter beds and how we make chlorine, and I was really amazed that first graders could remember some stuff that was talked about. And Sean and Todd did a great job explaining things,
Great.
very technical in simple terms. So I'm glad they're not school teachers. They'd be great school teachers, but they're even better operators. So that went very nicely. Projects, Denniston Finished Water Pump Station. On the consent agenda, you guys you have approved notice of completion on that. So the problematic speed with pump 2 was determined at between 80 and 85%. There was talk about modifying the pump base, and we decided that if we modify the pump base, the the frequency, the natural frequency that's problematic for this pump might shift into the operating range we're in now. So we're not going to be using these at 80% for many, many years. So we decided to go ahead and close it out. What we're going to do is on the variable frequency drive, which allows us to change the speed of the pump and the gallons per minute out, we're just going to have we're not going to allow it to be operated in that range and damage the pump. So Gould's is going to be sending us a letter, and they're actually going to give us an extended warranty on both the pumps, likely 6 months. I'm going to talk to them about it because I haven't seen the letter yet, but I think we'll get a little bit more on pump 2 if they're agreeable. PMI has installed several thousand meters. We're almost done. Glad to see that wrapping up. And Andrini is moving along with the 2-inch main replacement project. They just finished up on Korea Street. They're over on Kelly now, moving on to San Benito, and then after that, they're going to be going to Purissima. If you guys have any questions, I'm here at your pleasure.
You've looked at a lot of water treatment, and you've looked at a lot of raw water and finished water in your career. And I just wondered, when you look at the raw water that we receive here on the coast, whether it's local out of the wells or Denniston, or whether it's coming over the hill from Crystal Springs or out of Pillarcitos, what do you think of the quality of our raw water prior to treatment?
I think it's outstanding. I worked at the Sea Ranch where we actually filled reservoirs with well water, and it was so clean, and we had to be off the wells in the summer. It was so clean, it was very problematic to treat. So you want a little bit of turbidity in there for the treatment process to work well. What you guys have done with Denniston investments is fantastic, and it's a great water source, and you can see the savings in your budget and the CIP as well.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't mean to put you on a spot with that.
No, you guys are very blessed with just wonderful water sources, and it's part of the reason I'm here is because it's such a fantastic water system.
Yeah.
Great opportunity.
I feel that way too, but I'm not a technician, you know. I'm not technically educated.
I would think that the risk of contaminants entering any one of our sources has got to be really low. I mean, we're relative.
Yeah, you're not likely going to see perchlorate or chrome 6 or something like that, but they are looking at cyanobacteria and toxins and stuff like that they're not sure if they're even present. I doubt they are, but we'll find out once we do the sampling.
Yeah, that's great. I'll look forward to that report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments, questions? And Kathleen, Woodard.
You're so patient.
So my information report, I'm gonna skip over the snow survey results. We had Director Coverdale give us his personal.
Sorry about that. I wanted to report more, by the way.
And then President Feldman almost stole my thunder because next is the proposed regulations from the state board. They're gonna consider that on February 20th. Those 7 items that you mentioned, of making them permanent instead of just during a drought emergency. Things like the runoff from irrigation, using a garden hose without having a shut-off nozzle, irrigating during rain events, those things that they had implemented during the last drought, during mandatory restrictions. So we'll see. They've been going over this quite a while, and so I'm thinking that they probably will pass it as is without any significant amendments, but a lot of agencies did comment on it. There was concerns about how they're going to consider recycled water versus potable water and things like that. So we'll see February 20th, but the state board decides. And the last is the Save Our Water campaign. That's the statewide water conservation campaign that Aqua's been involved with. And they've come up with some new messaging and artwork and infographics, and they make that available for all the different water agencies to use in outreach and things like that. So I just shared. It should be available to water agencies in like April, something like that. So they're kind of having, the water conservation is our thing, is kind of the main theme, and then they're going to play off of that in different things. So
the 7 things that they're going to make a
Oh.
permanent set of rules we already have them as part of our?
No, we don't. So that would be something that we would consider. So what we would have to consider is how we would enforce it, and if we would add those to our existing waterways prohibition
Right,
ordinance.
okay.
So I figured we'll wait to see what
what they do.
the state board
Right.
approves, and then the district can consider how we want to address those.
Okay, no, that's what I assumed, there's some follow-through after you see
Yeah.
what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay?
any questions for Kathleen? Thanks again. for your help. Any requests for future agenda items? Okay, hearing none. I have to, so 8:15, we have to adjourn,
Yeah, it's 8:15, we're going to convene into closed session to confer with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D2, one potential case.
If I could make a suggestion, a little 5-minute break would allow Steve.
okay,
That's right, Sam.
Take down the camera and,
Perfect.
sure.
before we close the doors.
5-minute break.